Okay guys, so for this DIY, I'm going to be using memory foam and I have a really big piece of it right here. Using a pen, I'm going to mark down the top edges of the piece. I want this to be more rounded, like an actual loaf of bread. Now I'm going in with my scissor and I'm going to cut the top part and try to shape it really rounded and not so harsh. Try not to cut too much at once because that could really ruin the shape. So I'm doing like really small little snips, cutting a little bit at a time so that I'm really able to shape this how I want it to be. Not gonna lie, it did take me quite a while to shape this. I think it was because I was trying to make it perfect and it's kind of impossible to make it like 100% perfect. Anyway, I did keep myself occupied by watching some Netflix. Here is the aftermath, and now if you want, you can go the extra mile on shaping it, but if you want, you can completely skip this step. I personally think it gave it a lot of shape and it made it look realistic, but if you don't want to do this, you don't really have to. From the front, I made a V-like shape and I'm going to cut an entire strip of that, and then I'm going to round it off so that there are no harsh edges. I'm pretty positive that I'm explaining this really badly, but I hope it all makes sense and you get an idea of what I'm doing. Now you want to do the same exact thing on the other side, and it is completely okay if it's not 100% symmetrical. Mine was kind of off too, but I think it gives it a more realistic look anyway. Finally, after all that cutting, this is what it looks like. Next, to give it some color, I'm going to be using chalk pastels. I personally think that using chalk pastels is a better option because it gives it a more realistic look, but if you want, you can use puffy paint for this as well. I'm using different shades of brown and then I'm adding this beige color to lighten it up. I wish I would have added less of the orange burnty color inside, but I mean, it still looks fine, but I do wish that it was more on the brown side instead of like orange. Now I'm using this big brush that's actually a makeup brush, which I don't use for makeup anymore, and I'm packing on the color. I am doing this gradually so that I'm able to control the amount of pigment. By the way, I know this is going to be a question, that if the chalk pastel rubs off or not, and it doesn't at all, so you don't have to worry about that if you're using chalk pastels. This is how it looks like once I was done shading it. It is definitely more on the orange side, and as I mentioned earlier, the chalk pastel doesn't really come off once you apply it. I did try to fix it a little bit, and this is the best that I could do. Moving on, I'm going to take a ruler and mark down a line in the center. Using my pair of scissors, I'm going to cut a slot. Once you're done cutting, this is going to end up looking like slices of bread, but make sure that you do not end up cutting this all the way. It just has to look like slices of bread. This is technically going to be your phone holder area. You can also put your pens and pencils inside if you want, so it doesn't really have to be for your phone. One thing that I completely forgot to mention is that if you want to be able to charge your phone when it's on top, you can cut a little hole at the bottom and put the wire inside and you'll be able to charge your phone. I personally didn't want that, so that's why I did not make a hole, but you do definitely have an option for that. This legit looks like real slices of bread to me, which I don't know why, but I find it so crazy. To finish it off, I used some brown fabric paint and I'm going to add a face to it. And there is the completed squishy. I'm really happy with how it turned out. It's super cute. I really hope that you guys liked it too. Be sure to check out my second channel